Hey, kids, it's time for another exciting episode of KWJUDAS.
There was once a man who had a bunch of grapes instead of a heart. He thought it was a secret. However, all his family and most of his friends knew. When he was a child, his father taught him to ride a bike. Once his grandparents gave him a puppy. He taught it to roll over, to speak, and to fetch a stick. And once he gave his mother a pink seashell, as smooth as glass. When he grew older and went to work, a friend would sometimes bring an extra dessert to share with him after lunch.
Marvelous, marvelous, marvelous. That was a tune called Grapes by Robert Buchert on KWJUDAS Free Radio Provo. Thank you all so dearly and kindly for listening. Robert Buchert. I have had so many people say, man, you should get Robert Buchert on your show. And I'm like, dude, why? And they're like, dude, because I know him. So without further ado, guys, it's Robert Buchert. How you doing, buddy?
Well, thank you.
Quite the intro.
That's quite the intro.
Yeah. So you can't suck.
Well, I just might know a lot of people.
To be honest, I don't even know how I know you. How do I know you again?
I think we met years ago on Cher Moore's porch.
Oh, it was through Cher.
Well, and then a number of other people. Then I think probably through Eric in Waters Rising.
Right.
And then various things. It's not a huge community, and so if you have a predilection for something, you're going to meet other people who like that thing too. In this case, music.
Yeah, I guess it's, of course, music that kind of brings us all together, but it's just it is just sort of funny how many different people that we both know, not through each other at all.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, where the hell do I even know this guy from originally?
We met first on Cher Moore's porch. You had just finished modeling for a painting in which you were portraying Judas.
Whoa. Really?
Yeah.
You met me the night I became Judas.
Yes, I did.
What? What was I doing? What were you doing? Like, what were we all doing on Cher's porch?
She was our neighbor around the block, and I was over there. I don't know why. I just stopped by, and you were there, and she said, "This is my friend," and you weren't Judas yet.
That's insane. Wow. So, for those of you folks who might be scratching your heads a little bit, I am Judas, but that's not my real name. Come on, folks. Most Mormon parents don't just typically name their kid Judas. I got the nickname because back in, 2004 probably?
Was it that long ago?
It was forever ago. It was while I was still running Steamers. So probably 2005. Steamers was between 2004 to 2006.
Wow.
And 2005 was the year that we really were starting to pick up a lot of momentum. And this is the second Steamers. The first Steamers was a couple years before that. But yeah, some random guy just came walking in. I was running the smoke shop side, and he used the bathroom, and he comes out of the bathroom, and he just kind of like approaches me all slow like, "Hey, buddy, I know this might sound kind of weird, but how would you feel about coming to my studio later tonight and let me take pictures of you and paint them?" And it wasn't exactly like that, but something of that nature. And, of course, that was kind of weird. Yeah. Until he explained to me what pictures were for.
Yeah.
You know, this guy had actually been getting commissioned to repaint, I think it was like 12 different scenarios out of the Bible.
Wow.
You know how, like, when you're looking through, like, some Bibles or Book of Mormons actually have, like, a full-on, throughout the book, there's, like, 6 or 7. The scenes are actually, like, way elaborate murals stuck in the pages. And so he was, I guess, getting paid to do that again, like, do a newer version of those. And I don't know what became of it, to be perfectly honest. I have tried finding this guy online. And sure, you can still find some of his works, but it doesn't seem like he finished. In fact, the third painting, I've been in 3 as Judas.
Wow.
Yeah. The first one, he actually had another guy as the model, and he had the whole painting done. It was the Last Supper, right? Mm-hmm. And Judas was leaving in the painting. I don't know if you've actually seen the painting, but I can grab it. I've got it right offhand. Of course I do. So Judas is like about to leave, and he's sort of looking over his shoulder at Jesus, who he's about to betray. And the painter, the artist, sort of did it under the preconception that Judas didn't want to do this kind of thing. Like he had been sort of asked to do this by, there's lots of different theories behind the betrayal.
Yeah.
But the guy who did it originally didn't like the idea. After the whole painting was done, he was like, "Man, I don't feel comfortable being the deceiver of Christ, and you got to take me out."
Wow.
And so how do you think he's like, "What am I going to do now? You let me finish the painting to finally say you don't want this?" So luckily, Judas was standing in a dark doorway, and so he could just black him out. Yeah. He didn't really have to change a whole lot of the painting itself. And he used a certain kind of paint that if, like, the lighting is shining on it a certain way, then whatever you paint on top of it disappears. So when he found me to be the new Judas, I, of course, am not going to have any problem whatsoever being the deceiver of Christ. I was kind of flattered. And so he paints me on top of this special kind of paint. And the original... I don't know where the original is, like what museum it's in, but it still is arranged so that at nighttime Judas disappears.
Oh, interesting.
In the real painting, yeah, it's kind of cool.
Wow.
And I think it's called something to the effect of like, and then there was night or something like that. I can't remember the exact name of the painting. I feel like a douche, but it was something to do with Judas actually leaving at night. So even the title of the painting kind of was based around Judas leaving to go and perform the deed. And on the note of like Judas not wanting to do the betrayal, he made me stab myself in the eye to get a tear.
What?
Yeah, can you believe that? He's like, I want Judas to be crying. Can you think of like any terrible traumatic moments in childhood? It's like, yeah, but they're all hilarious. I told you, the way I deal with tragedy is joking about it. And so, like, I can't think of like my puppy dying. I never had a puppy, and if he died, I'd laugh my ass off. So he made me open up my eye with one hand and stick my finger with the other so I could get a real tear going down my cheek. Yeah, if you see the painting.
What's wrong with a glass of water?
Because it's not a real tear. This guy was cool. He was all about being like as authentic as possible. That's why he walked into a smoke shop looking for models instead of looking for BYU models. He even told me that. He's like, yeah, BYU could facilitate the models for this sort of a project easy, but I want real beards and I want real long hair. So he had actually been looking for models at homeless shelters and smoke shops and coffee shops. And then since I was the only place in Provo running a smoke shop, coffee shop, and most of the homeless people hung out there anyways, it was a good place to go look for models, right? And I'm sure that in the back of his mind he was thinking, I'm probably not going to have to pay any of these guys either. And he didn't.
Oh, he didn't?
No, he told me that if ever this painting goes anywhere, I'll definitely be compensated. And I wasn't terribly worried about it at the time, and I'm still not, because as I said, I don't know what happened. Yeah. We did that painting. We did Jesus walking on water. So I'm like in a boat, and I've got my hand outstretched like, whoa, what's he doing? You know, like got this bewildered look on my face, looking back at the disciples like, look at that. And then we did the third painting that I was in. He did more than 3. I don't know how many he got through before he stopped doing this. But as I say, it doesn't seem like he completed it, and it doesn't seem like he completed the third one I was in, which was the crucifixion. And that was a huge production. We went over onto the other side of the lake, and they actually dropped scaffolding in the lake. Like they actually built a platform in the water so that the cameras could actually be level with like the whole horizon, all the scenery that he had in the West Desert on the other side of the lake. He picked this one spot, you know, just the way that the hills were. And the only way to get the angle that he wanted was to go clear across Redwood Road. That still wasn't far enough back. So, yeah, they actually dropped a scaffolding in Utah Lake to set up all the cameras and everything to get, like, the full picture here. And we actually erected real crosses. Like, it was a huge production. We were out there digging the holes. I wasn't, because I'm a model. Models, you know, you don't want me to mess up my nails or anything. That's right. I can't dig. I sat there and drank Tang most of the time for hours of just drinking Tang, and he wouldn't let us go get beer. It was great. We actually had, have you ever heard of This American Life?
Oh, yeah.
Ira Glass?
Yes, absolutely.
We were on that show. They brought the whole crew.
That's right. I remember hearing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also heard that particular episode, it's called God's Close-Up, was like nominated for a Grammy or something. I don't think it won, but it got some serious attention.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was on it.
Yay.
And I was one of the only people who had a speaking role. I was one of the only people who got interviewed, you know, as me and Jesus, or Jesus model, and they talked to his dad or his girlfriend or his girlfriend's dad because they were kind of illustrating the contrast between the types of people that were all working on the same project. So they're going back and forth from showing like this Mormon girl and her family that's like dating Jesus, who's not Mormon, and then me, I'm Judas. I'm sitting here like trying to get beer, and
well, that was one of their video productions, wasn't it?
Yeah,
This American Lives, because they're usually an
that
audio.
was part of the footage was me trying to get beer.
Right. That's right.
And the artist is like, he knows how I am, and he was just like, okay, so this is sort of a big deal. Like, kind of try and mind your manners a little bit around these people.
It's a big deal. Pay me.
And, right. You're not paying me, so I'm going to do whatever I want. And what's hilarious to me is they had plenty of footage that they could work with, and the footage they chose to use was still me doing the stuff Ben didn't want me to do. They still use me about to leave to go get beer, and he runs up to the car like, guys, you can't do this. And all you hear is me go, we can't get beer? What the fuck? And then later on in the interview, the only other time I cussed, I swear, I was really trying not to cuss. And the only other thing they use from me is when Ben comes up and he kind of like fluffs my hair a little bit. He's like, yeah, let's get some of that nappy hair in your face as we're taking the picture. And I turn around and I shake my fist and I'm like, don't make fun of my hair. I'll kick your ass. And of course, they use that too. I'm like, hey, Ben, remember how you told me not to... Look what they used. Yeah. See, they want that. I'm Judas. They want to see Judas acting the fool. But he promised that he would buy us beer at the end of the night. So.
And did he follow through with that?
He did. He did.
Good.
And me and my friends, because, again, this is a different thing, but he still was trying to look for people with real beards and real long hair. And he was in a bind. It was the day of the shoot, and we were literally hanging outside the homeless shelter. Or they don't have a homeless shelter in Provo. It was the
Food and Care.
The Food and Care Coalition.
Yeah.
And I'm even sitting there because I still just got done working at Steamers, so I know half the crazy bastards hanging around out there. And I was like, oh, it's Big Rob. Hey, dude, come be in this photo shoot with me, man. He's looking for guys with long hair and beards. Oh, no, I got to go get my welfare check. But I was trying. Because, of course, most of the people I know got long hair and beards. And so he's just like, dude, will you just call all your, like, hippie stoner friends? And I'm like, what makes you think I have all these hippie stoner friends just readily accessible? All right, let me call a few people. Want to be in a Jesus painting? Goes down in history. Yeah, so I got a couple friends out there. And it was kind of cool, I must admit, to be like, hey, guys, I know that we want beer right now, but if we stick it out, a Mormon will buy us our beer tonight. And they're all like, all right, we'll wait and we'll drink Tang for 8 hours straight. Oh, man. Memories. Oh, speaking of beer, I just spilled some all over myself. I just think that's nuts that that was where we met. Not even at all what I would have guessed. I mean, we didn't meet at that specific happening, but right after it happened, apparently.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure Cher probably knew Ben, the artist, and most of the people involved. I can't remember, but it seemed like she...
I think that she knew you because Cher...
Well, Cher and I go back. We go way back to the first Steamers, which was like 2001, 2002-ish. And... well, she knows everyone, too.
Yeah.
She is definitely pretty deep in the scene. And
I don't know that she knows Ben.
She might have. I don't know. Again, it's kind of hard to say. I'm pretty sure she knew our other friend, Ian, who was also modeling. He was one of the robbers, actually.
Oh, really?
They tied him up on the cross because he just looked perfect for the part at the time. Wow. If we wouldn't have had a Jesus, they probably would have asked him to do it.
Oh, interesting.
Now he's all clean-shaven and everything. I'm probably one of the only ones left. I'm not cutting my hair anytime soon. I mean, why would I?
I don't know why.
I wouldn't be Judas anymore.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I'm still waiting for Ben to come back around and be like, oh, it's Judas.
Well, you know what happened to Judas, right?
He hung himself?
Yeah.
According to theory. That was one of the things that I heard.
Not that long after.
Right. He also...
You've survived a lot longer. So
he also believed that too, and talked about an idea for painting that.
That'd be a rough painting.
Like, of course, I said, yeah, I'll do it. You know, again, I've been through some rough stuff, and I don't have a problem getting dark. But it's like, you really, I mean, amongst the paintings that you're doing, The Last Supper, Jesus walking on water, you know, all these biblical paintings, you would add Judas hanging himself to that collection of pieces. Yeah, he didn't do it. I knew he wouldn't do it. I don't even know what happened to the crucifixion painting. I would really have liked to have seen that, though, because, like I said, we were on This American Life. We were on. We were in the Ensign. We were on the Daily Herald. It was big news, you know. And my friend, who the one I was telling you about, who was the robber, he did kind of stay in contact with Ben a little bit after that. I don't know how much longer. But he told me that the whole thing was going to be like a mural, like a big, you know what I mean? Because why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If you just set up scaffolding in Utah Lake, you totally could do like a wall-sized painting of this.
Yeah.
And yeah, I still have not seen the finished product. This is 2006-ish, so roughly 15 years ago as of this recording. And I've looked up Ben McPherson Fine Arts and all that. Most that I could find is I think he's like trying to direct movies or something.
Oh, interesting.
So, again, who knows what happened with the series of paintings. If anybody listening might be able to shed any light on this, please feel free to drop a comment below. Because, well, I'm flabbergasted. I'm befuddled. I'm bamboozled. I'm cantankered.
Let's see. How far can you go with this?
Discombobulated. There we go. I'm ending it with that one because it's one of my favorite words. So let's have another song with Robert Buchert, who was there when Judas became Judas. Thank you all for listening. This is KWJUDAS, Free Radio Provo.
Once there was a man who knitted sweaters from the dark shapes he found between trees in the forest at night. Tugging and pulling until they came away in his hands. Then he would put them into a wagon. At home, he carefully removed the twigs and dried leaves, and he would wash them in cool water. When they were dry, he would sit in a comfortable chair and knit until lunchtime. After lunch, he would continue his knitting. When he finished a sweater, he would fold it just so and put it in a box. And when the box was full of sweaters, he would send it to his sister.
That was Sweaters by Robert Buchert on KWJUDAS. Thank you all for listening. You know that you're very, very privileged, and you should consider yourselves lucky to be here with us tonight.
Huh?
Why? Well, we don't have to be here doing this for you. You know, I could still be fishing right now. He's got nothing to say. Dude, we were totally talking about fishing before the show. Thought you were into it.
Yeah. Well, I would like to be into it at some point. I'm just impressed by all the pictures I see on Facebook of you with these fish.
I'm just a bored guy, I guess. I mean, I got nothing better to do. It's not like I like fishing or anything.
Oh, you don't?
Well, there's just like so many places to catch them, and you need food. Right?
Oh, yeah. They apparently need food as well.
Yeah.
That's how you catch them.
That's how you trick them into it. It's kind of messed up, right? I mean, just going out and shooting a deer out in its home, that's cool. You know, it wasn't trying to eat, but tricking it, deceiving it. Just being like, hey, dear, here's one of your favorite meals. Ah, psych! Hook to the mouth.
Yeah, that's a little dark, isn't it?
I know. That's why I do like fishing. You get to hook things in the mouth. And, you know, it's not all barbaric when you gut them.
Yeah.
I do it with my bare hands, depending on what kind of fish it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, Uncle Arliss taught me the trick. All I got to do is just make sure that your thumb and your forefinger meet in the middle, right behind their gills. And then you just pinch and twist.
And that guts them. You can pull out the intestines.
Yeah. If you do it right, it pulls everything out all at once.
Any species of fish, or is it just a particular species of fish?
Nah. I would not try that on actually quite a few species of fish. Anything that's spiky or prickly, like a bass, or probably wouldn't work on a catfish. Really, trout's probably the only one I would would try that on, because they're all soft and malleable, and you know what I mean.
Do you dispatch them with a bite? I know some people who kill the fish that they catch with a bite right behind the head.
What?
Serious. I'm serious.
They bite the fish?
They bite it and they sever the spinal cord, and
that's cool. I'm totally doing that now.
Well, you might want to YouTube that just to make sure that you've got it. You bite the right spot.
I'll figure it out. I just start biting once it stops moving. I obviously got the button. You shouldn't have told me that.
I probably shouldn't have. So.
Well, I mean, you're kind of paying attention to my Facebook posts, right?
Oh, I am actually they come up. I'll get a notice about something. That's the only time I look at Facebook, is when I get a notice from a friend
me
or a family. Well, and yours inevitably seem to be about fishing, and so I because I've had a fishing license and I've tried to catch fish here in Utah. And you seem to have success. I've never had success.
It's like I was saying earlier. I only seem to have success because I go out so many times without having any success.
Mm.
And like I was saying, I probably actually catch something maybe like 2 out of not even 2 out of 3. I say maybe 2 out of 5.
Hmm.
Is that okay? Is that a good statistic?
That's 2 out of 5 is 40%.
That still seems like I'm giving myself too much the benefit of the doubt. Because, I mean, like, how many times I have gone fishing this year versus how many times I have caught fish.
Yeah.
It just seems like I catch a lot of fish because I go that often. I don't post pictures of the times that I get skunked. Well, sometimes I do. You know, you get a good sunset or a weird-looking tree.
Yeah.
Or you catch a snake.
Well, that's better. I like snakes. I wouldn't eat them or kill them, but
No, I don't eat a snake if I catch it.
yeah.
Okay, I have. Have you ever had rattlesnake,
No,
dude?
I haven't.
Oh, dude, rattlesnake. I would recommend it to anybody.
Really?
It's good.
Over chicken?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Have you ever had duck?
Yes, I have.
So it's more comparable to duck than chicken.
Really?
I feel.
Kind of greasy.
Yeah. Like it has its own sort of an oil.
Oh, interesting.
That is like naturally secreted.
Did you catch and prepare the rattlesnake, or was it a...
I've done it twice.
You've caught and prepared the rattlesnakes?
The first time, we collectively prepared it, I should say. Between a group of us, we figured out how to turn this snake into food. And we all got a little piece of it. And it was kind of crazy because it was actually my brother-in-law who cut off its head, and I was sitting right next to him while we were, like, roasting it over the fire, and he got the neck piece. And as he put it over the fire, the neck piece curled around and looked right at him, as though the head was still attached. I kid you not. There is a reason why rattlesnakes are the emblem of resilience, folks, because clear till the point where they have been skinned, gutted, sectioned into 7 pieces, and then roasted over a fire, they're still looking at you with no head, like, I'm going to get you. I know what you did. It was you. It was kind of creepy.
We, so during COVID, the first summer of COVID, my daughter and I hiked up Slate Canyon.
It's a great rattlesnake field.
It is, and there are a lot up there, and it was fun because we'd see them. But if you go a mile, maybe a little more than a mile up there, there's a seep coming out.
What do you mean?
Like it's not quite a spring, but there's always wetness there.
Right,
and it's been like that way since I came to Utah.
I might know where, like, roughly where you're talking about.
So you go, it's where it's let's see. So you go up, and the trail crosses the spring bed or the stream bed.
Yeah.
There's the first time it crosses the stream bed, and it's the second time it crosses the stream bed.
Right.
It's a shady place, and they've got it looks like a bench against a rock. It's not really a bench. It's probably an old piece of what are those things? A bulldozer.
Oh, word. No, I don't. I would remember something like that.
Okay. So
I'm pretty familiar with Slade. It's one of my favorite canyons
it's
in Utah County, actually.
Yeah.
I like that canyon.
So there's always been this wet place. And
right.
For years I've thought, I should dig out a pool to collect the water. We had all this time on our hands, so we went up there and we started building these rock pools. So we dug up a place, and then we'd go and collect these, 60, 70, 80-pound rocks, flat rocks, and we built a series of 3 pools.
That's cool.
It changed the wildlife up there.
Really?
Because there were all sorts of game trails that happened, and there was a flock of bighorn sheep that positioned themselves there.
Oh, no way.
All these different birds came down. It was really fun.
I've only seen bighorn sheep like once ever in the wild. I didn't know we had them in Utah.
Oh, yeah.
Until, like, we were practically on top of them. We're up here, and they're down here. It was just like a maybe 10-foot drop, and there was 2 of them. And they were really close. And I don't know about you, but when you see a new species in the wild, especially one that you didn't know we even had here, it's really exciting.
It's very exciting.
It's really cool. Like the first time I saw a horned owl, and there was another one that was like
You'd never
I
see
didn't know
one.
we even had those
Oh,
in
yeah.
Utah, and it was in the daytime.
Yep.
And it just glides like a phantom.
They're amazing, aren't they?
No sound.
So beautiful and so silent.
Yeah.
But
It's ghostly.
yeah. So there's this series of pools, and because the drought had kind of really kicked in, that's why
Word.
all these wildlife were coming, because it was the only place
That's way
to
cool.
get water from like 3 or 4 miles in either direction. And but there was a rattlesnake that hung out there, and so
Right.
every time we went up there, I'd look for it, and you could not see it. And then I'd start working on the pool, and then there'd just be this movement, and 2 feet away, this 3-foot rattlesnake would move
3 feet.
6 feet up the hill and just curl itself up. And if you knew where it was, and you could see it, but you could not see it. It didn't rattle. It wasn't afraid. It just
That's
and
a
it
big
wasn't-
rattlesnake for around here.
and it wasn't threatening. It was just, okay, I got to move. Here they are. They're working back. Anyway,
That's cool.
really enjoyed the.
I have to say the biggest rattlesnake I've seen was up Slate.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
big. There are some big ones up there.
Yeah, and Utah doesn't usually get like way big rattlesnakes.
Well, they've all been killed.
It's because they're so freaking delicious. Now, have you ever been rock sliding?
Yeah.
You just get up at the top as high as as the rock slide goes and
Yep.
just surf down that thing
Yeah.
as though you were on a surfboard. I can't do it now, but that was one of my favorite just
a lot of
outdoor
fun.
random thing to do
Yeah.
while you're out hiking and stuff. And that also is one of the best canyons for rock sliding.
Yeah.
We found this huge one, and I had already gone down it once. I was like way ahead of everyone, and I loved it so much I immediately booked back up to the top. So like I think I had 3 other friends that had gone down, and then my second time down, our friend Angela was like just casually, "Oh, there's a big snake." And I hear her say that as I'm approaching the bottom of the rock slide, and the rocks are starting to get bigger chunks. So you're kind of like
Yeah.
dancing over the larger rocks to not just biff it with the momentum you've got. and as I'm like tiptoeing over these things, I jump right over the tail of, I don't even know how long of a snake this was, but you could see how thick just the tail was as it slithered into the bushes right next to where I almost just stepped in just this big shower of rocks. And yeah, saw it just in time to jump right over it.
This is so we were talking earlier about bear stories.
Oh, yes.
So let me tell you, this is one of my bear
Since
stories.
we're in the wilderness,
Yeah, okay.
let's hear it. We got a bear story, folks. We haven't not had one of those yet, I don't
Okay.
think.
So I was doing a mission in Arizona
Word.
and southern Arizona. And in fact Tombstone was part of my and it was a weird.
So you're like 19?
No, I was 22.
Well, still
I got-
missionary age.
I got out late. So anyway,
You're
yeah.
good.
So at 19 and 22 are very different ages. So
I guess, especially in the missionary
It's-
world.
Oh yeah. But anyway, so I had hauled all these missionaries down to a place called Sierra Vista,
Word.
and there's a hummingbird sanctuary there, which is pretty cool.
Gangsta.
But there's a mountain, and I made them all hike up the mountain, and then I wanted to do the rock sliding.
Right.
But I do it with jumps. Okay, 'cause it's really fun to jump and get out, and it feels like you're 12 feet in the air, and you land, and it's really soft because you're landing in
Yeah.
the scree, and so I'm getting them all to do this down this mountain, and I'm there 12 feet in the air, and I look down, and there's a bear
On the rock slide?
on the mountain. Yeah, on the rock slide.
Wow.
I land right in front of it, and you-
and you're heading right for it.
and so I make a 90-degree change of direction, and I go up a tree, and then
Wow.
the next guy lands right in front of the bear, and he makes a 90-degree change, and he goes up the same tree, and then the tree starts bending over toward the bear, and then the next guy
I
lands,
can just imagine like Goofy and Max.
and I'm trying
the
to
tree just.
I'm trying to kick him out of the tree, and I'm telling him, this is my tree. And then the next guy lands right in front of the bear, and he drops to his knees and starts praying. And then I start shouting, "Just move!" And the bear takes off, and three guys drop out of the sky in front of a bear.
That's like a total cartoon moment. It's not, yeah, even like down to like the dropping to your knees and praying. Like I don't like just say like there's Donald Duck just and it actually works. The bear just gets out of there.
The bear's gone. Yeah. So there's one bear story for you. So
that was good. That was real good. And I've got like the vivid imagination that does the rest of the work. I told you I had a moose story.
Oh,
I
good.
still have yet to run into a bear, but moose can be equally as dangerous and scary.
Probably more scary. They're bigger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If I was a bear, I'd be scared of a moose.
Absolutely.
Still.
Yeah.
Because, those things are...
Yeah.
So this was a female. Didn't have any horns or anything. A little less intimidating, but still... especially like females with calves, are supposed to be the most dangerous.
Absolutely.
Luckily, she was alone, and she seemed kind of young.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've only seen one moose before, so I don't have any others to like compare it to. But I don't know. I would imagine mooses can get bigger than that. I don't know. Either way, I was working at this place called Camp Jeremiah Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Up Hobble Creek Canyon.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, my family used to rent that place every Labor Day weekend, clear back since I was 7. And so I've always just loved that place. And, I went there as a scout.
Yeah.
And so when I was old enough, I'm like, yeah, I'll work there. I worked there for 3 years. And so I guess, like, a lot of the other staff members thought I was more outdoorsy and thought that I knew more stuff about wilderness things. I don't know why they all thought that. Maybe because they knew less.
Yeah. That's all it takes to be an expert.
Yeah. So all I have to do is be able to answer a couple questions like, where the monarch butterflies come from, and they're like, oh man, you're a naturalist, about wilderness. So camp is letting out, it's not quite over, but all the kids are gathering back at the front of the camp to have our closing ceremony. And I stick around just to clean up my station. It was up at the very, very top of Camp Jeremiah. I don't know if you've been there, but they had the raft at the very, there's 2 ponds. There's the upper pond and the lower pond.
I haven't been there. That part of it, no.
So I was at the upper pond, about as far away from the front parking lot as you can possibly get, like total opposite side of the camp. And a couple staff members come running to me, and they're just like, oh, dude, there's a moose. And they were talking like it was cool. And I was like, where? And they're like, just down the trail by the other pond. So I say there's 2 ponds, and the main part is kind of separated by kind of a creek that goes like all the way through the camp. And so we're on this side where not hardly any people are. They're doing the closing ceremony on the other side where the main big field is. And so I'm like, okay, I got to at least see where this moose is at and where it's heading because, well, I've only heard about how dangerous a moose can really be and how innocent too many people think a moose is. It's just a big dumb cow. And so all those things that you learn in scouts, you're finally like they all just start flooding into your mind. All the things that you're like, okay, what do you do if this happens? Okay, I don't climb a tree. I don't make myself look bigger. Okay, this had better work. So the moose is heading down this side of the camp towards the parking lot on, I guess we're going to say the left side of the brook. And I get on the other side of the brook where the main camp is, where all the kids and the scout leaders are all emptying out into their cars. I mean, there's like 100 to 150 people all out in this parking lot where the moose is heading directly to. And you can kind of tell that this moose is getting a little frantic because it can't find its way out of here. You know, it already went all the way that way. It was all fenced in. Now it's heading back this way. It's kind of starting to, like, gain momentum. And so I got the trees, the brook, the moose. I grabbed 2 of the biggest tree branches I could find, and I run to the clearing where the moose would be coming into the parking lot. It leads into the parking lot where you can actually cross the brook and the trees kind of break. And I knew that's where it was going. And if it did that, it was going directly into the parking lot. And, I mean, that would just cause mass hysteria. Even if the moose didn't hurt anybody, everybody would start freaking out, which would, of course, freak the moose out even more. Yeah. And so, yeah, I grabbed these 2 tree branches and rush to cut it off right as it's starting to cross the river into the parking lot. And I just, I just waved the tree branches above my head and just, and it worked.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
Dude, I could have been trampled, though.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what I was thinking besides just, okay, scout leader said this will work, and if it doesn't, I'm dead. And it did. Luckily, it did. So, even though it worked for me, I am not going to tell you to do that.
No.
Like, because who knows? Just because it worked once, I'm still looking back on that like, oh, man, that was stupid. But I lived. No one got hurt. The moose turned directly around and fled back up to the opposite end of the camp. And that's when I went and turned around, and I was like, hey, everybody, there's a moose on the camp. You might want to get out of here as quick as you can. So, yeah, it was intense. That was probably the scariest, like, wildlife experience I've had. And what's crazy about that place is, like, that's also probably where I've seen the scariest supernatural stuff.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, the most scared I've been for natural reasons and supernatural reasons both occurred at Camp Jeremiah Johnson.
Interesting.
Which, unfortunately, has been shut down permanently, kids.
Oh, why is that?
No more Camp Jeremiah.
Oh, no more scouts is the problem.
Yeah, I think that the BSA is going bankrupt.
Yeah.
And especially here in the state of Utah, when they were mostly being backed by the church no longer backs them up.
That's right.
And so I imagine that was a huge chunk of money, like in funding and just support that they lost, especially here in this state.
Oh, absolutely.
Having grown up here in Utah, to me, the Boy Scouts were kind of just synonymous with church, even though you did have a couple of scouts that didn't go to church that would still show up for scouts. I don't know how kids got into the scouting program outside of Utah. You know, like, do all churches just say, hey, go to scouts when you turn 8?
No, there are a lot. I mean, I didn't grow up here. And in fact, here you go. Here's a point of interest. My great-grandfather started the 2nd BSA troop.
Wow.
In New Jersey. So
that's pretty gangsta.
So I came, I was a terrible scout. I don't know that I got anything beyond Cub Scouts, but I'm certainly not an Eagle Scout. But
I came close.
No, good for you.
Almost good for me. Not quite.
Some places that counts for a lot. So
it ain't horseshoes.
But a lot of places, scouting was the thing that people did, and lots of different religious denominations would host scout troops.
And that's cool, I think. It sucks that so much corruption has to go on to ruin a good thing like that. Because, I mean, all old people, like, I'm not going to say old people, but as you get older, you're going to start saying things like, oh, man, this generation,
Yep.
It's just, not only like kids these days and what they're like, but also feeling bad for younger people and all the things that you had that they don't, and
Yep.
I'm pretty sure when I was young, folks that were 20, 30 years older than me felt the same way. There's like, man, you kids don't even know just how many things you are missing out on right now. And here I am still, again, not even in my 40s, but that's old enough to look at younger people and say, God, you guys, I feel bad for you guys. I mean,
you grew up here, right?
Yeah, in Utah.
In the Utah Valley?
Mm-hmm.
Well, just look at the changes here.
Oh, yeah.
There's no place for a kid to play except the parks.
Right. Everything is just so kind of crowded into this. This is where you do this.
Yeah. That's one reason I make sure my daughter goes up the canyons, and we spend a lot of time scrambling up the canyons and getting dirty and
because it's still free,
cutting trails, and also it's just the idea of I don't want her leisure activity to be completely prescribed. It's like, let's get you a little bit wild.
Right. And when you're out in the wilderness, I mean, you do whatever you want. Sure, there's definitely
reason.
There's things you want to avoid doing, like littering. That's not cool.
Littering and keeping yourself from becoming somebody else's meal.
Pickling with the wrong animals.
You don't want to take a 5-year-old up the canyon and have her out of sight.
Yeah, and next thing you know, you're waving sticks at a moose
or
to keep them from getting trampled. Or prying rattlesnakes off of their galoshes.
She's so funny because there are quite a few tarantulas up there certain times a year.
Oh, yeah.
And so I caught one time, and we brought it home and put it in a terrarium. And
they're really easy to catch.
They are. The
they're
males
slow
anyway.
moving.
Yeah. But so after that, it was like anytime she'd see one, she'd want to reach down and grab it. It was like, no, you can't.
Yeah, that was me when I was a kid. That's still me. And I'm still a kid. There's really not a whole lot of difference besides that I can drive and drink now. I don't mix the two of them, no.
Good.
But I am old enough to do both of those things, so I am an adult. But I use my car now to just go out and catch more creepy crawlies.
Good.
Go out and do more wild stuff. And even still to this day, no matter how many times I have caught a freaking bluebelly or a garter snake, if I see one off to the side of the trail, I still I have to chase it.
You want to. Exactly.
I can't help it.
Oh, no, and it's really fun to
see something moving.
Well, and it's just the and for kids, I mean, that's an amazing way to become aware of their world, to see a snake, to pick it up, to realize, okay, it's not shaking its tail or it's not rattling. and here, if it's not rattling, then it's probably kosher to pick up.
No, we've got some venomous snakes here that are not rattlesnakes.
Yeah,
we have a few.
I think they're coral snakes. Are there coral snakes?
Coral snakes? I actually just looked this one up.
Are they only in Florida?
Not even that long ago, because it's like an urban myth. Like, a lot of people will say, I think we do have coral snakes in Utah.
They're not. They're just king snakes with the...
Yeah, I understand that, like, there have been coral snakes found in Utah, but it's extremely rare. There's like, okay, like, I'm probably going to misquote this, so don't, go ahead and look this up on your own time. But if I remember right, from when we looked this up, I think it was like Arizona has their own type of coral snake. It's like their own species than the rest of the country. And like every now and then we'll find them in like the corners of Utah. But still not way common. Also, coral snakes are mostly nocturnal, so even if they do live where you're at, you're not way likely to see them unless you're like turning over rocks and like specifically looking for them.
Well, so what are the other venomous snakes besides the rattlesnakes?
So again, like, probably still want to look this up. I don't want to like misquote or like give misinformation, but pretty sure we've got red racers,
Those aren't venomous.
aren't they?
They're very fast. They're amazing, but they're not venomous.
Again, I don't know. That's why I said don't quote me on this one.
I won't quote you.
We had red racers at Camp Jeremiah, and my cousins always said don't mess with them.
No.
Because they're poisonous. So all growing up, as I said, I would chase after whatever snakes I would see, and there'd be a couple times like there was a pitch black snake.
Yeah.
No idea what it was. I still don't know what snake in Utah is just entirely black.
Yeah.
But I saw it along the Provo River when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And, of course, your cousins swear up and down. They're like, oh, you don't want to touch that thing. Those things are so poisonous. I, for the life of me, can't even think of a poisonous snake that's all black that lives in Utah.
I don't think there are any. I think that there's a snake back east called the black racer, which is, I think, same family as a red racer, but I'm not positive about that either.
Right.
But they're black, and of course there's a black mamba. But
those ain't. I don't even think those are anywhere in the U.S.
They're African. So
If they are in the U.S., they should not be here. I don't know. Now that we've posed that question, now I kind of have to look up what other venomous snakes we have here in Utah.
I think it's only rattlesnakes.
You are probably right about that.
Yeah.
I could swear that we had some other ones, but that is probably accurate. And I think we have 4 to 6 different species of rattlesnake here. Now, the one thing that you do have to be careful about that is a venomous snake that does not have a rattle are hybrids. Yeah, because rattlesnakes have been known to breed with blow snakes. Apparently, they either eat each other or they breed with each other.
Blow snakes, is that the same thing as a gopher snake?
I think so.
Because I know gopher snakes eat rattlesnakes.
Right.
Yeah.
They're in the same family as king snakes, I'm pretty sure, except for they don't eat each other, and king snakes do.
Here's a funny snake story for you.
Word.
Okay. Some friends were on Center Street. Do you remember the Bird Palace?
Yes, I loved that place.
Okay.
Where Starry Night used to be.
Yeah.
Word.
So they're down there, and there are these 2 snakes outside on the sidewalk.
Word.
And so they caught them, thinking, "Oh, Rob will like these," which is true. So they brought them. They I don't know where they found a box. I think it was a shoe box, but they got these 2 snakes in this box, and they got it to me. And they opened the box. There was only one snake in the box.
He got eaten?
The other one had gotten eaten.
Have you ever watched that? Dude, I had a king snake, a California king snake, black and white banded, really cool looking snake. And knowing that this snake will eat other snakes,
you caught a snake.
I had to do it. How could you not? I like snakes.
Like snakes, but
and I don't want to. It was kind of hard because I still like snakes, and I don't want to watch one get eaten by another snake. But I still, on the other hand, like snakes. So watching one eat another one was still pretty cool. It was very interesting, because all the other times that this snake would eat a mouse, they grab it and they constrict it and they wait for it to pretty much for its heart to stop beating before they even move and try to swallow it. Yeah. Not with another snake, because they know how difficult that would be, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Where is a snake's heart?
Yeah. It's a long organ on a snake.
Right. One big long coil around another long coil. So basically, he would just bite them, sort of get them wrapped up a little bit, and then just let go, find the head, and just start eating them whole, eating them alive.
Wow.
So again, it was kind of difficult when you like snakes, just watching that poor little snake
Oh, gosh, yeah.
get eaten alive by another snake. But then it's also pretty cool because
that's the way the world works.
You like snakes, like you say. And it is the way the world works. Big fish eat little fish.
Yeah.
Big snake eat little snake.
Yeah.
Big troglodyte eat small troglodyte.
I hope not.
We should probably hear another song. We came here to talk about music, and we've just been talking about creepy crawlies and weird animals the whole time.
So let me just say a bit about the kind of music that what I do.
I was gonna ask.
Okay, so I don't know that I would consider myself a musician. More of what I'm interested in is sound.
Okay.
And so songs are one tiny part of the world of sound.
Right.
You know, it's a identifiable, recognizable organization of sound. But there's a lot of other things that you can do with sound, and there are a lot of other sounds that are really fascinating to listen to, and a lot of other ways that you can use sound to create things besides musical recordings. So one thing that I spend a lot of time, or have spent a lot of time doing, is doing field recordings, where you take a stereo pair of microphones out into the field, with air quotes there.
Right.
And you record what happens, the aural events of that place and that time.
So, like, what would be an example?
Well, we could inject an example here of sound, and we could even use some of the things that we've been talking about. So I've done a series of recordings up at that spring that my daughter and I put together.
Ah, right.
And
so you just go out and just record nature and just whatever noises happen?
You can either use that as an artifact, as a piece in itself, or you can take aspects of that and incorporate them into other projects using sound.
Right.
Or
That's cool.
You can, and I know that you've done one of these shows with Christian Asplund.
Oh, yes.
But Christian and I have done a couple recordings where we'll go up into one of the canyons, and he'll take, I think he's taken a viola or a violin. I think it was a viola. And he'll improvise, often using materials that we find up there. And then I will essentially orchestrate that by microphone position, by editing afterwards. And it may not be the kind of music that most people recognize as music, but if you can get past the idea that music is this, and this, I think they're pretty fascinating. I think they're pretty satisfying to listen to, and we could inject one of those at this point, one of those pieces.
some interesting stuff here from Robert Buchert on KWJUDAS. We just realized that we've been BSing for like way longer than we thought we were. So we're going to get right into some more audio experimental stuff of yours. You said you've got another project on the way, the Highway Project. What's that all about?
So when I was, my family emigrated to Canada when I was 10.
Word.
But the rest of my family lives in or was in New England.
Right.
And so we would travel. We would often travel from Toronto to Maine and to New Jersey, and we did it. We lived. The thing that my family had for transportation was always a Volkswagen bus.
The old Twinkies?
The old Twinkies.
Awesome.
And we've got these wonderful pictures of like 3 or 4 of them lined up because everybody in the family had those Volkswagens.
So you have a family reunion. It's like a whole box of Twinkies
it's like,
out in the parking lot.
Were
Were they all the same color? Because that would be so
No,
cool.
They weren't. They were all. Everybody had to get a different color, so that was
Word.
To get to my grandparents' house in New Jersey, my parents would throw. I think at this point there were probably 4 or 5 kids, and you would drop the back seat in the Volkswagen bus down, and you would throw some camping pads and some sleeping bags on there, and then you'd throw the kids in that at either you left at 6 at night and then you traveled all night, or you do it in the morning. But if we left at 6 at night, we would get to New Jersey, at 4 or 5 in the morning. And there was this one, I would wake up about that time, and there was this one stretch of highway that I would always look forward to traveling over, because the combination of the very distinctive sound of a Volkswagen engine, and it's right underneath that platform in the back. So if you're a kid, it's nice and warm back there because the engine's right there. But there's this purring of a Volkswagen engine. But then you also have the sound of the tires on the pavement. And so the combination of all those things in this one spot would suddenly sound like strings, violins, and there would be these almost indecipherable symphonies that would be playing the combination of the engine and the tarmac and those sounds, and
right.
I would look forward to that as a kid. That was just something that was so exciting. That was one of the most exciting things about going to my grandmother's house. So years and years later, remembering that, I thought, okay, how can I try and replicate some of that experience? So you break out the synthesizers and start looping and start finding those tonalities or something that would represent those tonalities, or would try and get something similar. And so that's what the Highway Project is like looking at various aspects of that.
I bet that would be quite a challenge, just trying to synthesize.
Well, the point isn't to synthesize the exact sounds.
Okay.
But the point is to synthesize, is to play with the harmonics of different sounds and the interactions of different drones or rhythmic elements of a piece, and try and develop make things overlap or encourage things to overlap in such a way that your brain starts hearing other things within those drones, essentially, because that's what it is. I mean, the sound of an engine over the course of a long stretch of time is a drone.
Yeah.
And the sound of the tires hitting the tarmac, that's a drone. And,
right.
But the interaction of the harmonics in there are what probably gave my brain interpreted it as strings, because that's something that, and so the Highway Project is not necessarily about trying to make that same experience, but to create a similar experience through the use of long-form drones.
The same concept.
Yeah, and you could say it's a type of drone music. I don't know if it's exactly the same as drone music, but
Drone can kind of cover a lot of ground.
it does
I
cover a lot of
feel.
ground. Yeah. So
I think when you say they're a drone band or something,
yeah.
even though that seems really specific, it's not.
Well, no.
I don't even know.
Thankfully, if
I know what
everybody-
that could mean,
Yeah.
but I'm sure it's not what it is
Yeah.
going to sound like.
Exactly. So,
I mean, I heard a lot of things that get called drone, and
Yeah.
none of them sound similar.
no, and boy, if they did, good grief, you'd only need to listen to one of them.
Right. Like all those other genres that are just based on one stupid technique, like gent.
Yeah, that's such a funny thing because it's like, how many people have been doing that exact same technique without calling it gent? You know?
Palm muting?
Yeah.
Like anyone who picked up a guitar before gent was invented.
Yeah. So
Yeah, the fact that became its own genre is just like, wow.
it's pretty funny.
And I don't even like entirely hate it, but it is one of those things that's like, I kind of wish that there was just that one band that did it and that's what they were known for, instead of like a whole just chapter of all these bands who I probably couldn't tell the difference any better than Skrillex from every dubstep artist out there.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I know that I sound like an ignorant asshole. If you listen to that sort of music, I mean, you could say that about anything. All Tool songs sound the same. You know, name a band. It all sounds the same. If you're not a fan, Mr. Bungle, it all sounds the same. No, that's why my favorite bands are who they are, is because they don't all sound the same.
And that's exciting when you find something that doesn't sound the same.
That's what keeps me doing this stupid show.
Yeah,
I'm constantly
there you go.
being exposed to all sorts of music I never would have even known about had it not been for this. Like what we're about to listen to right here. So this is the Highway Project, and we'll probably conclude it with this piece. So before we get going, where can people find your music online? Is there anywhere you'd like to refer people? Any links you'd like to drop?
Probably Bandcamp. And I'm terrible about putting my stuff up. And I'll probably try and do that. Not that that's not. You know, if you do this sort of stuff, you should probably make it accessible to anybody that might want to hear it.
Yeah.
And if anybody hears it, I'm honored. Absolutely. If anybody seeks it out, that's a complete honor. Thank you for spending any sort of time at all on my vanity, I suppose, or on my obsession.
It's not vain to just be a creative weirdo and express your creative weirdness.
So you could go to Rob Buchert at Bandcamp, and it's Buchert.
Right. Rob Buchert on KWJUDAS, Free Radio Provo. You know that you'll always be able to find it right here. And, of course, in that special, warm little spot in your heart. Thank you all for listening. KWJUDAS, Free Radio Provo. Hey, Derpin Kid, are you tired of Derpin Schlee?
Oh, well, Derpin guy, my parents have been complaining about the last 7 years of psychiatric bills I've been racking up in attempts to get rid of the voices in my head that are constantly trying to sell me useless malfunctional products, which usually turns out to be either you or my Uncle Jarius, who died in the house we're currently living in.
Right. Well, I was gonna take a break anyway.
Yeah, this is why I don't usually talk to you about stuff.
Why? Because it confirms the voices in your head are real, or it makes you think that I'm a fake person?
Kind of both.
Ha ha! Okay, well, whatever, you warped nut can.
See, like that! A warped nut can! What is that? Some kind of Derpinsley propaganda?
Good question, Derpin Kid. Why don't you ask your parents?
Oh, okay. Perhaps, maybe, I think I will. Oh, Mom? Oh, Dad? What's a Derpin nut can?
Ah, honey, another warp nut can. It's back to Dr. Von Peeps with you.
Oh, no! Not Professor Von Beefs again!
Ha ha! Brought to you by Derpinschlee. And remember, if it doesn't say Derpin, it's not Derpinschlee.
We'd like to thank you all for joining us on another exciting and exclusive episode of KWJUDAS on Free Radio Provo. We now turn you back to our regular free radio programming. Thank you.